why do we stay in abusive relationships? Why is it so difficult to break the chains with people that hurt us every single day? Hi, I'm Vassia, and I'm a psychologist and relationship therapist, and I'm here today to explore together with you this complex psychological phenomenon that is called trauma bonding. Let me tell you about Angela. Angela was a client of mine. Of course, that's not her real name, and she was a woman that she was staying already for 10 years in a relationship that she felt so suppressed, so abused, manipulated. And still, even though she could understand that this was not to her own benefit, this was not good for her own emotional, but also physical well being, still, it was impossible that she would break this bond with this person. So, when we're talking about trauma bonding, we're talking about when somebody faces consistent abuse, consistent manipulation, and they develop a very strong emotional connection with their abuser. That's the paradox. Even though it hurts, still this person feels immense sense of security next to this person. That's the paradox. So understanding, of course, is essential so that not only we understand the intricacies of abusive relationships, but also so that we can see how we can get out of them. Let's say from the beginning, it's going to be very difficult. It is very difficult. And you will see why it's difficult to break this bond for our emotional and mental well-being. Let's talk a little bit about what are some characteristics of trauma bonding. First of all, we're talking about emotional dependence. In trauma bonding, emotional dependence refers to the survivor's reliance. So Angela was relying on her abuser, her partner, for emotional validation, for security, but also for a sense of self-worth. And then you will ask, but how is it possible that she would get a sense of self-worth from somebody who is abusing her, who is hurting her every day? I will tell you. That's the second thing that I would like to say. But the first and most important thing is that the sense of emotional dependence. And that, of course, reinforces the bond, reinforces the trauma bond. The impact of course, of emotional dependence is that there's a strong attachment between the victim and their abuser. And of course, it makes it very difficult. It makes it so challenging for this person to break free. As I said before, Angela was trying for the last 7 years of their relationship. Altogether, they were 10 years together, but for the last 7 years to break free. And what I mean, she was trying for the last 7 years. She was on and off with her partner during these 7 years. She decided, she was making a decision, okay, I'm done, I'm out. They would separate, and that would last a couple of days or maybe weeks, and in some cases, maybe a month or so, but then she would be back. So that was impossible. It felt impossible for her to break free. And the psychological barrier was, of course, profound. And then, as I said before, how is it possible that we are getting a sense of self-worth by the person who is abusing us? And that leads me to the second trait of trauma bonding, which is the cycle of abuse. The cycle of abuse is a pattern where abuse is followed by remorse. There were so many occasions where Angela's partner was crying, was saying how much he loves her, bringing her flowers. It was so good, especially after a big fight. He was so nice with her, so kind, so compassionate. So that's part of the cycle. The abuse is followed by remorse, apologies, affection, kind gestures, romantic gestures, being very generous with their partner. And then what happens with this cycle is that the victim gets confused. The victim believes that, oh, wait a minute, my partner is changing. That's the hope. That's what creates the confusion. Because it's not clear, it's not like 24/7 negative and toxic. This is happening in intervals. So the moments of kindness and affection create hope and reinforce this idea, this belief that, you know what, maybe they're not as bad as I think. Maybe they can change. This cycle is what perpetuates the trauma bond. This intermittent reinforcement of positive behavior in the middle of abuse, of course, creates a sense of anticipation. See, there are more good days coming in the future. Please believe in me, hope, have faith for something that until now has never existed consistently. The third trait is confusion, as we said before, and mixed emotions. This is where the victim, and in this case, Angela, she was going from one day to another or one week to another, from one positive emotion to a negative emotion. One week, she loved her partner. The other week, she would be scared of him. She would hate them. She would want to leave. She would want to escape the abusive situation. And why we're saying that this is already an important trait? Because this confusion of what is it that I'm feeling about my partner or about whatever, it doesn't need to be a romantic relationship. That's a good point. Whatever it is that I'm feeling about my abuser, one day something positive, one day something negative. What if I have the problem because I am being inconsistent and I don't know what to feel? I'm feeling something loving one day, something fearful the other day. What if I am the problem? That's where we have the damage to our self-esteem. What if I am the problematic here because I cannot seem to make up my mind? My feelings are turbulent. My perception of what is right or what is wrong is very confused. And this, of course, confusion and these mixed emotions makes it even harder to make clear decisions because the victim accuses, blames themselves for this situation. Then we also have loyalty to the abuser. The more we stay with the person that hurt us, the more we feel that we are morally or emotionally obliged to stand by them. So Angela was telling me that even though she felt as if she was victim of this situation, she also felt that immense compassion for her partner. She felt that well, maybe he's not like that because he wants to, but because he's also traumatized and because he also needs kindness and compassion and affection from me. So if I leave him, he would have no one. So even with the evidence that this person is causing harm to them, still they're staying and still they're trying to protect their abuser. And the way that it happens is that because they not only they feel that they can change or they can protect their abuser, but also because they think that because there's a mechanism actually that makes them change their perception. So in order for them to handle the immense emotional discomfort and pain from their abuser, they change their perception and they start to seeing them from a more positive perspective. And again, in order to handle their own pain, hence this intervention actually that they're doing in their own idea about the relationship. And last but not least, another trait of trauma bond is the fear of leaving the relationship. Fear of leaving the relationship meant for Angela that what if I'm not going to be able to sustain myself emotionally or financially? So she was also dependent from her partner. What if, because now I have a little bit of affection, a little bit of connection, a little bit of love, what if I leave that person, I have nothing? What if I will be completely by myself, isolated? And what if my worst fear, says Angela, I will confirm and people will confirm to me that I am not worthy of love. So it's better to stay here, even though I'm not free, just because I get breadcrumbs. And that's okay. That's good enough. That's the main traits of being in a trauma bond. And of course, as we said, the mechanism is the fact that we develop positive emotions towards our abuser. And that's also called Stockholm Syndrome, where hostages or abuse victims, they develop positive feelings and empathy towards their abusers or captors. Also, the coping mechanism of cognitive dissonance, where because we hold contradictory beliefs about our abusers, then in order to alleviate this dissonance, then we start believing in their positive qualities. In order to alleviate that discomfort, we rationalize the abuser and downplay the severity or convince ourselves that the abuser truly loves us because of the major cognitive and emotional discomfort. Another coping mechanism is the learned helplessness, the condition, the psychological condition where the person believes that they don't have any control over the situation. It's the other person that will decide what will happen with them. So they systematically convince themselves that they are helpless. Nothing can happen, nothing can change. And of course, not even consider escaping the situation. Of course, as we can understand, this is very heavy for our brain. This is very heavy for our neurobiology, for our body. This can change brain chemistry. And the more we are more attuned with this relationship, more into this relationship, the more our amygdala will be activated and we will live in this state of fear. And the more our prefrontal cortex will underfunction and we will not be able to make rational, good decisions. So, how do we get out of this? If you are a person who has been in a relationship like that, I know how hard it is. I know how it is because you have doubted yourself first and foremost. You have questioned yourself first and foremost so many times that stepping out of this zone, not the comfort zone, but this safety, let's say fake safety, is impossible because you think you're not going to make it, because you think you deserve it, because the self-esteem cannot sustain these big change, this escape, this big leap towards freedom. This takes not 24 hours in order to change. That takes some significant work with your therapist so that you can start building again your self-esteem, so that you can start creating internal emotional safety without expecting it, without depending on others, on your emotional safety. That will take some time. So without rushing yourself, you are healing when you are working with the therapist and you are trying to cut this bond with the person who is abusing you. And in the beginning, of course, your brain, your mind will have a million reasons why you should stay, but give it some time. You're healing from trauma in order to do this step and to find a healthy, respectful, caring, reciprocal, loving, and connecting relationship. You're taking this step, and that will take some time, but remind yourself that you totally deserve it. So I hope that this gave you some insight on what it means to be in a relationship based on trauma bond. Let me know if you have a question. Let me know what helped you to get out of a relationship like that. We are going to be here for the whole month discussing toxic relationships, discussing elements of relationships that we never knew that this was actually what was causing our distress or our burnout. We're going to discuss more about that, and we're also going to discuss about ways to build healthier relationships, to set boundaries, to protect ourselves, and of course, to live relationships that don't serve our life anymore. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for listening to this conversation, to this video today. I know that this must have been hard for you. I want to let you know that I'm here. And until our next video, take good care of yourself.